Today we're breaking down my old aquarium, which is right behind me, for the good reason though. I want to set up a new high-tech planted tank with CO2 injection. It's gonna be fun, let's do it. This was my first planted aquarium on my channel and it's around 10 months old. I added quite a lot of shrimp here in the beginning, but they didn't do very well, so I had to move them to another tank. Then I decided to add some fish with some low-grade shrimp just to test it, and they're all doing fine here, they're quite happy to live together. It's a little bit of shame to break it down, but now the soil ran out of all nutrients and this caused an algae problem. The plants don't do very well here anymore, so I went to reset it completely and set up a proper planted tank with CO2 and lots of beautiful plants. Alright guys, here you go, this is our tank, nice and clean, and the first step of course is to add some soil at the bottom. And here in this bucket I have all soil from this tank and it's full of beneficial bacteria, especially this soil from UGF, so I'm gonna use it in this setup. It's gonna help us with the cycle. Okay, I'm done with the base layer and now I'm gonna use root tabs just to supply some nutrients for our plants. I'm gonna use the flourish tabs, this pack, and I'm gonna grind it in this thingy. So we have some tabs like that, and I'm gonna use this device. I don't even know the name of that, and hopefully my wife didn't find out. I borrowed it from her kitchen. She's gonna come back home soon, so we need to be quick. Okay, now I just sprinkle this powder on top of our soil. Oh, that's a bit difficult with one hand. Let me do it like that, like a salt. Yeah, nice. I grounded 6 tablets, so I hope it should be enough for this size of the tank. Okay guys, I finished with the old soil and now I'm gonna put some fresh soil. I'm gonna use Easter soil. I wouldn't recommend to use this soil for planted tanks guys because it's not rich in nutrients. The only reason why I'm using it because I have a spare bag and we just sprinkle a lot of rooted tabs on top of the soil. That should give us a lot of nutrients for our plants. And I'm also planning to do some liquid fertilizer, so I think we should be fine with the soil. Okay, we finished with the soil, and as you noticed, I created a slope from front to back just to create a depth. And here I've got some rocks and pebbles I've got from my old Aquascape I've done many years ago, so let me play with them in our new tank and hopefully I can come up with something decent here. Okay guys, what I was trying to create here is an area, like a feeding area for the shrimp. So basically it's gonna be a plants everywhere else and this area gonna be without the plants. So try to separate it with the rocks, just to put the rocks around and just put some sand here in the middle. I know it doesn't look good now, hopefully it's gonna look better. So now it's time to do the planting and I'm gonna start with carpeting plants first. So guys, I'm gonna start with HC Cuba we've got from my old tank and I'm gonna plant it on the left hand side. So this area here in the middle actually helps us to separate two kind of carpeting plants. Alright guys, we just finished with the carpeting plants and our tank is already looking good. So the next we're gonna plant the in vitro plants, and here I have Rotala bonsai and a bunch of other plants which is difficult to read for me, so you can read the label. After we do that, we're gonna fill this tank with the water and we're gonna plant some stem plants which I have a lot here, so let's do it. We just filled this tank with the water and it's already looking good. I'm pleased with the result so far, so now let's switch the filter on. And for this setup I'm using a little external filter, AHEM 2211. I'm very big fan of these AHEM filters. They're very powerful and very small, so this filter fit perfectly into this little gap. It is the next day and I know guys, for you it was only 1 second. This is the magic of video editing, and it was quite a long day for me yesterday to reset the tank, to set up the new tank, and it took me like 5-6 hours to do everything, so I was a bit tired to continue. So today we're gonna carry on and it's time to plant the background plants, and we already prepared the plants over here, so let me show you them. Here you go guys, I have a quite big selection of the plants, lots of red and pink plants. I have Ludwigia Super Red, Rotala Tetra, I have Rotala Macarandara Mini Pink. A lot of plants which is I'm not familiar with, so it's hard for me to say the names. So I'm gonna pop the names of the plants on the screen. So now let's plant them in. finished with the plants and our tank looks absolutely awesome. Can't wait to see how it will develop in a few weeks. So now it's time to build our CO2 reactor. When you hear about DIY CO2 reactor, most of you guys thinking about yeast and sugar method, and I'm gonna use another method which works much better in my opinion. Let me show you. So here we have our little device, a CO2 generator in this little box. Let's take it out from the box. So here you go, this is how this device looks. It's very simple, it comes with a little instruction and everything is straightforward, so let's set it up. So for this reactor you only need to buy 2 ingredients, and they are baking soda and citric acid. These ingredients are normally very cheap and very easy to get. So before I assemble everything I need to empty these lemonade bottles, and I don't want to waste lemonade, so I have to drink it all. Oh, I'm so full. Let's continue. So the next step is to put 200 grams of citric acid in one bottle and 200 grams of baking soda in another bottle. So let's do it. All right, we have our ingredients in the bottle. Now let's add some water. So how are we gonna start it up? We're gonna squeeze this bottle with citric acid, and citric acid is gonna drip into this bottle. You can see it, yeah? Okay, let's do it again. And this way the pressure gonna build up inside the bottles. I think it should be enough. Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's getting hot, you know? The pressure should be just where the green line is. It's very little. I don't know if you can see it here. So now it's almost in the green line. So that's it, the pressure is built up. Now we can open this valve. Oh, we already have a CO2 in the tank. Let me show you. Okay, guys, take a look at this beautiful CO2. So now I'm gonna slightly overdose the fertilizers and slightly overdose the CO2. The reason for that, because we don't have any animals, we don't have any fish or shrimp. So now I'm gonna leave this tank alone for a couple of weeks and then get back to you with an update. See you then. I checked on this tank in about 1 week and I noticed that HC Cuba started to overgrow with the algae. If you remember, I moved it from my old tank and we had some algae already on the plants. I thought maybe it's gonna go away, but it's quite opposite. The algae started to grow like a crazy. So I removed all the old plants and I replaced them with the fresh in vitro ones. I also added a little bit of Eleatine hydropiper because I had a spare pot left from my other setup. These plants look very similar, so that shouldn't be a problem. I planted some extra Eleacharis mini on another side and some Rotala bonsai. I also added some small pebbles and rocks in the middle section on top of the sand. I think it looks more like in nature now. In the end, I decided to set up my GoPro to shoot a time-lapse video. So now let's see how the plants grow in this tank. Take a look at this tank, guys. That's insane result. This is the power of CO2. I forgot how this stuff is powerful. So we got CO2, we got a little bit fertilizers, and we got a nice light for 10 hours, and that's what we have at the end. And take a look at this Eleacharis mini, the carpeting plant here. It's almost covered everything completely here. Here we have our HC Cuba. It's also grown quite a lot. It's almost covered everything here. Just another week and it's gonna be much thicker carpet here, just fully grown carpet. So some of the stem plants is grown okay, but some of them they're growing like a crazy, like insane. This plant is growing very long, so I'm probably gonna remove it completely because maybe it's okay without CO2, but with CO2 it's growing like a crazy. I don't want to trim it every week, so I'm probably gonna remove it. And I also don't really like this plant. I don't know why, I just don't like it. It's also growing like a crazy. I guess we have a little bit of algae here on the sand and on the rock, but I think it start to die off already. You can see it's just start to coming off the rocks, and I think I need just a little bit clean and just clean it. I also thinking to just to cut some plants and replant them. I think I know what mistake I've done in this tank. I didn't plant them in groups, I just plant them random. This is my main mistake. I saw some videos on YouTube from MG Aquascaping, MG fish tanks, so I think they kind of try to create a group of plants. They never plant them randomly. So I like how I create the group of Rotala bonsai here. They're looking good. I also want to see a group of red plants, but now they stretch a lot. So what we do, we're gonna cut them quite short, then replant them and create some kind of groups here. So this is what my plan. I still got fish left from this tank and they're all here. So I have some zebra daniels and guppies, but I'm not planning to put them back. I don't know, I just quite bored with this fish. I'm probably gonna give this fish to my friend and then I'm gonna buy a more colorful fish for this tank. So enough talking, let's tidy up this tank. Alright, we just finished with the trimming and replanting and our tank is nice and clean. So now I'm going to wait for the plants to grow back and then I'll get back to you. So now it's been about 2 weeks from my last update when I trimmed the plants in this tank and the plants are absolutely thriving and going insane here, guys. I cannot believe how big is the difference in plant growth simply by adding CO2 in your tank, a little bit fertilizers. That's insane. You know, guys, in my other tanks without CO2 my plants are growing okay, they're thriving, they're growing fast enough. That's what I thought, but believe me, once you add CO2 your growth like triple, guys. It's like a turbo boost. That's crazy. And this is where we are now, guys. Take a look at this beautiful tank here. I'm so pleased with this result, guys. To be honest with you, I expected some issues here. I thought we're gonna end up with some algae issues, maybe a plant melting or something. But so far so good. Every single plant here is thriving. There is no issues. Touch the wood, of course. And the only algae we have here is just a little bit on this glass, just a little bit of the dust algae, which is completely normal and nothing else. Remember, we had some like diatoms on the rocks. Now it's completely gone. You can see some of the plants are peeling here. They're releasing oxygen into the water and they consume the CO2. This is very good sign of the very good plant growth. Normally when they're peeling them means they're growing. If you take a look at the stem plants at the back, I think it was a quite good idea to organize them, to kind of replant and make them denser. They look much better now. You can see we have in the corner, we have Ludwigia super red and we have some green plant in the center. And we also have some more red plants and Ludwigia super red there in another corner. And I think if we do it one more time in the next trimming session, which is very close, actually these plants already grow quite tall, almost touching the top of the tank. So in a week or so I can do another time, another trimming, and then just trim more of this green and red plants and replant them, make it even more denser. I think it's going to look even better. And guys, we have a very good result with our carpeting plants in this tank. Take a look at this corner. We have here Eleotine hydropiper. It's growing absolutely insane. It's covered every inch of the surface in this corner. I'm super pleased with that. On another side we have our Eleocharis mini, classic dwarf hair grass. It's growing fantastic. It's always growing fantastic. I think I never had a problem with the Eleocharis mini, guys. It's super easy plant. I think I don't know what you need to do to screw this plant. In the mid ground we have our Rotala bonsai. Very pleased with this plant. It's looking great. You can see it start to stretch a little bit and hanging over this sand area. It's look fantastic. We have a steady amount of CO2 coming with 1 drop per second roughly. I have a drop counter here so you can see it's one drop per second, and I already changed my CO2 system. I decided to go with the classic Eastern Sugar CO2 bottle instead of our citric acid with baking soda. I had some issues with that system. I'm going to tell you later in the video why I had some issues. And now I'm going to go to the shop to get some fish for this tank, and I already have in my head which fish I want to buy. And I'm not going to go too crazy and buy a lot of fish. I'm probably going to buy a small group of 10 or 12 of one kind of peaceful fish for this tank, because I also want to add some shrimp here in the near future. So it's going to be a community tank with mix of fish and shrimp. So I don't want the fish to be too aggressive, and I don't want too many fish here as well, because I want to leave some space for shrimp. And the good news is that this tank is already cycled long time ago, and I know that because in the beginning I added a little bit of household ammonia, and this is basically a liquid fish poop. So some people prefer to cycle the tank with the fish. I never do that because I had a bad experience. My fish always die in the cycle tank of excess of ammonia or something. So yeah, it's better, it's much safer to use this liquid ammonia. And then I dose this liquid ammonia into this tank weekly because it's basically adding the food for your nitrifying bacteria, and nitrifying bacteria consuming this ammonia and converting it to nitrate, and this nitrate actually is fertilizers for your plant. And this is basically how fish poop works, it's also fertilizers for your plants, and that's why it's very good idea to add some fish here now. They work together very good with the plants. Alright, I just arrived to the pet shop, and of course it's rainy and windy, so I'm gonna get inside quickly and see what they have. So guys, I decided to go ahead with this glowing tetras. I'm gonna take 6 of them because the minimum amount I can buy is 6. And I'm also gonna get cardinal tetras, which looking like a regular neon tetras. I don't know what's the difference, but a little bit difference. So I'm gonna get 8 of them. So I just got back from the shop and take a look outside right now, and nice and sunny. This is typical British weather, guys. 5 minutes rain, 5 minutes sun. And take a look at this beautiful tree I have in the garden. I don't know, I just want to show you. This is called magnolia tree, and it's flowering right now. It's absolutely gorgeous when it's flowering. So guys, I'm gonna put this fish here to temperature acclimate it for 20 minutes, and then we're gonna release him in the tank. So here we have 14 fish. Let's put them in, guys. Guys, it's brand new net and it has a hole in it. So now we have 14 tetras altogether in this tank, and that's a good number for this tank size. I know it's always tempting to add some more fish in the tank, and even now I'm sitting and thinking why I didn't buy 5 extra tetras for this tank. That should be enough space. But guys, believe me, sometimes it's better to understock than overstock. And don't forget, we're gonna add quite a lot of shrimp here in the near future, so we need to leave some space for them. So it's been about 5 days since we added fish here in this tank. The fish doing fantastic, the tank doing fine, it's no ammonia spice or anything. So I decided to trim the plants. Let me show you why. Okay guys, I just start feeding the fish. The fish are very happy, they're doing fantastic here. We have lots of beautiful neon tetras here. And take a look at the plants. Ludwigia super red is almost touching the surface here. I think it's too much of the green plant in the middle, so I want to trim it a little bit, and I want to trim this Ludwigia super red and replant it at the same place just to make it a little bit more dense. On this side is not too bad. That's pretty much it. So we're gonna do a little trimming here, and then after about a week time or so, we're gonna add the shrimp here. Let's do it now. I just finished trimming the plants. I think it's going to be my last trim in this video. I also did the water change and cleaned the tank slightly, and now I want to add some fertilizers as I normally do after water change, and it's a good time to show you what fertilizers I'm using for this tank. And for this setup I'm using only 2 types of fertilizers, and they are micro fertilizers and potassium. I don't dose any nitrates or phosphate because we have some fish here in this tank, and the fish poop is basically phosphate and nitrates. So now I'm going to wait for the plants to grow back, and I'm going to leave this tank alone for a week or so, and then I'm gonna come back and we're gonna add some shrimps here. Here you go. Now I'm happy with the density of the stem plants, and overall with the final result. No more trimming and replanting. We have very healthy plants, and what's really amazing is that we have absolutely 0 algae here. And in case you're wondering, it's been 2 weeks since my last update and just over 2 months since we set this tank up. It's going to be my sort of farm tank because the plants are quite expensive to buy, and in the future if I need some plants for my new setup, I always can take them from this tank, and they're always going to be nice and fresh. I think I need to trim this dwarf hair grass here. It has grown quite tall already, and that's why I prefer HC cubic carpet, because it doesn't need to be trimmed so often. And take a look at this very pregnant guppy here. She is so fat. She looks like a whale. I just put her here because we have so much plants in this tank, which provides a lot of hiding space for the babies. I just did 50% water change here, and this tank is ready for shrimp. And I'm planning to put lots of shrimp here. And now I want to quickly talk about this CO2 generator and why I don't like it. And the main issue with it, it's not consistent, and the pressure inside the bottle always fluctuates, and I had to adjust this needle valve a few times a day in order to get the right amount of CO2 coming from the bottles. Oh, that's still pressure inside. Yeah, so it didn't work very good for me. I think it's because the baking soda doesn't dissolve fully in the water and stays at the bottom, and citric acid stays at the top once it drips into the bottle. So I had to shake the bottles regularly to mix the components, and that always increases the pressure. Once even the pressure increased to the maximum level because I didn't shake the bottles for a few days, and the bottles started to deform and I thought they're going to explode. That was pretty scary. So after that I decided to switch to the classic yeast and sugar method of making CO2, and I think most of you know how to do it. I just simply added 2 cups of sugar, 1 teaspoon of yeast and 1 teaspoon of baking soda into 2-liter plastic bottle. I drilled a hole into the cup, attached the tubing, that's it, job done. In 24 hours we have a nice and steady CO2 coming from the bottle. I still have plenty of citric acid and baking soda left over, so in the future I want to try the more expensive CO2 generators which I saw for sale online. I hope it will work much better than this cheap one. Enough talking guys, let's finally put some shrimps into our new tank. And here we have our shrimp which I selected for a new tank. We have lots of colors here. We have a black and red galaxy pinters, blue and red balls, yellow galaxy, golden bees, crystal black, you name it guys. We have over 120 shrimps here in this little acrylic box, and this is going to be my Skittles Caridina community tank. I'm very excited to see them in our new aquarium. Without further ado, let's put them in a new home. Let's make shrimp rain. I'm so pleased to finally see some shrimp here in this beautiful planted tank, and guys, I'm sure they're gonna be fine here even with the CO2. I had a great success with the bee shrimp in a CO2 tank in the past, and the good thing about CO2 is that it lowers pH of the water by about 1 degree, and that works perfect for Caridina shrimp because they prefer water with low pH. So for instance, if pH of the water in your tank is 7, once you add CO2 it can drop down to 6, which works even better for Caridina shrimp. And if you have shrimp in your tank and you're adding CO2, it's better to run it 24/7, because if you switch it off during the night, pH of the water will creep up, which is stress your shrimp, because shrimps like stability. And guys, I don't worry too much to mixing tetras with the shrimp. I think they are the most peaceful fish I ever had. They won't bother the shrimps at all, and in the future if we're gonna have some babies here, they'll be fine because we have plenty of hiding space in this tank. Honestly, I'm not expecting shrimps to breed a lot here. It's not a breeding tank, it's display tank, but if they decide to breed here and babies survive, that's gonna be a nice bonus shrimp for me. Once I added shrimp to this tank, I didn't see them much, most of them hid in the plants, but after a couple of days they started to come out. I think they scared the fish in the beginning, and after a little while they realized they won't harm them. That sandy area with the rocks is definitely the shrimp's favorite. They all like to come here, it's like a little playground for shrimp. So I decided to give my shrimp a very first treat, and I dropped them a food stick. I was worrying that the fish might interrupt the shrimp, as it happened in my old tank with zebra danios, but luckily these tetras weren't much interested in the shrimp food.